Hello and welcome back to Bookish. Today I wanted to do the 2018 Postscript Tag. This tag was created by Adam over at Momento Mori. I'm sure you're all familiar with this channel, our resident iconoclast, I think, of BookTube. And he put together this really interesting tag. I was tagged to do this video by Shawn the Book Maniac. Thank you, Shawn, for thinking of me and tagging me to do this. Sorry it took me a couple days to get around to it. I had to find a day in Litmus that I didn't really want to do a Litmus video, and that was today. So there are, I believe, 9 or 10 questions in the tag. So the first question, it's actually kind of a two-part question, that's why I don't know if they're 9 or 10. The first question was, what's the longest book you read this year, and what book did it take you the longest to read? So the longest book I think I read this year was The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. I read this as a part of Bigtober, and I really actually liked it. I was somewhat surprised because I wasn't really a fan of any Bronte novel that I've read. Not that I've read that many up to this point, so I was kind of surprised by that, but I think it weighs in my edition somewhere just over 500 pages, which makes it a little bit longer than I think the longest nonfiction book I read, which was The Viking Wars by Max Adams. I believe I have a review of both those books somewhere on my channel, but you know, I won't trouble you with necessarily the links here. Maybe I'll put them in the description below. The book, though it took me the longest to read, I realize, is a book that I started reading, or I read before I had a BookTube channel. I think I just started my channel in July. And it's actually a book that really put me into a reading slump because I just didn't like it. And that book is Leaving the Atocha Station by Ben Lerner. So I'd heard about this book for a long time, and I think for a while Ben Lerner was one of those people who was supposed to become, you know, the next great American writer. I believe he's more known as a poet than a novelist, and I've never read any of his poetry, and this is the only novel of his I've read. I didn't like it. This book, I just hated the narrator, the main character, so much, and I have a feeling you're supposed to dislike him, which is fine, but I just hated him, and I didn't think there was anything remotely interesting about him. I thought the novel's set in Spain, and the main character is there as a poet on some kind of a residency, or he's won some kind of a grant, and he's in Spain, and he's supposed to be translating some Spanish poems into English and writing his own poems based on them, I think. And really it's just him falling in love with various Spanish women who, for the most part, have the good sense not to take him seriously or get him seriously involved with him. Good for them. And just, you know, doing a lot of nothing and smoking a lot of drugs, which I don't mind in a novel at all. I'm not a prude in that way. But then the kind of centralizing event is the bombing of the train station in Spain by terrorists that took place, you know, after 9/11. And I just didn't think the book worked at all. I just slogged my way through it, and it was so dispiriting as a reader to hate this book so much that it kind of put me off reading for a while. And in fact, one reason why I kind of started a BookTube channel was to get back into reading and reading more seriously. So anyway, that's a long answer to question 1. I don't think the others will be quite so long. The second question was to list a book or to name a book that you read that was outside of your comfort zone. For me, that book was Just Kids, and I do have a review of this book on my channel as well. The only reason why Just Kids is outside my comfort zone is because I don't read a lot of memoirs, and this is one. I liked it. I don't think it's perfect, but I found it to be somewhat honest, and you know, for the most part, I thought the writing was fairly clear and direct. And I thought Patti Smith, the person who wrote it, was being honest with the reader. So Just Kids is outside of my comfort zone because it's a memoir, and for that reason alone, I just hardly ever read memoirs. Okay, so the next prompt was to name how many books you reread and what your favorite reread was. Well, I only reread one book this year. I'm not a rereader. If you've watched my channel, you know that I am a slow reader, and I just don't normally want to reread books because I think it always bothers me that there's some book that I haven't read that's out there that I should be reading instead. I did a buddy read with Alan over at Big Hard Books and Classics. We buddy read The Unvanquished. We both had videos about The Unvanquished. I'll talk about mine again here in a minute, but I reread that and it was my favorite reread. The good news is that I really enjoyed it, and it really was a thought-provoking read for me. So the next question is, what's the favorite short story you read? I only read one short story collection I can remember this year, and it was William Trevor's Last Stories. I'm a big William Trevor fan, and the story I liked the best was the story about the unknown girl. Essentially, it's a story about a young girl who gets hit in the street by a bus and killed, and then kind of the backstory about kind of trying to find out who she was, because she was largely unknown. She was someone who even her landlord didn't know well. Come to find out that she had been severely disappointed in love with a young man from a good family for whom she, I believe, worked as a house cleaner, and the son fell in love with her and then essentially rejected her on the grounds of the disparity in their social class levels, largely at the insistence of his mother, and how that one event on her part kind of ruined both their lives. It is a typical William Trevor, understated, dramatic story, and I just love William Trevor for his ability to take relatively small things and create a whole world and complete characters in an incredibly short space. And I'm just going to tell you, if you've never read William Trevor's short stories, you simply should do that. I mean, he is a master, maybe the master of the craft of writing short stories. Okay, so the next prompt was called Mass Appeal, I think, and that's a book that I read that I would recommend to, pretty much anybody, and I've already done that. I haven't done a review of this, but I did mention it as a part of Litmus as the kind of the best book I think I've read this year, and that's In the Lake of the Woods by Tim O'Brien. It is a great book. It is a enthralling read. It is kind of a psychological page turner, and I highly recommend that. The next prompt had to do with a book that you would hesitate to recommend to somebody because of its specialist nature or its kind of limited appeal. And for me, that book would be a book I read as part of Nonfiction November, which was Brunelleschi's Dome. This is a really good book, and I enjoyed it, but if you're not particularly interested in the history of Renaissance Italian Florentine architecture and the artist community of that time period and that place and all the things that went into building the dome in the cathedral there in Florence, I'm not sure you'd be particularly interested in it, so I'd kind of probably hesitate to recommend that. And the last prompt was to kind of reflect on your year in BookTube. So this is my first year as a creator of BookTube content. Like I said, I think I started my channel in July. There have been a couple of things I've done that I really liked. I really like my book club series, and I plan to get back to it and create some more videos just about just love of books in general, not necessarily about their content, but about the books as objects and what they mean to us, and I kind of hope to get back to that soon. The video I think I'm most proud of is the one I did recently about The Unvanquished. It's a really long video, and so I realized that that's going to limit the amount of interest in it, but it's one of those things where I was really proud of what I said, and for the most part I think I said what I meant to say. I hope I did, and it came out clearly. But I really liked that video, and I really liked that reread. And that book had a really powerful effect on me. What I learned the most from BookTube is that I could get excited about things that probably, if you'd said before I started my BookTube channel that I would get excited about, I would have told you were crazy. I loved Victober so much, and I loved ShakeTube, and I loved the People of Color readathon, and I never thought I would be a joiner in that way and that I would get involved in that kind of BookTube community collective stuff. I thought I would get on here and I would talk, mostly about serious books and all kinds of lofty literary discussions and stuff about history, and I thought that's kind of what I would do. I think I've done a fair amount of that, but I just really enjoyed the community on BookTube. I think probably most people say that, but I've enjoyed doing that and participating in these things. I've done all the Litmus videos up until this one this week, and it's just been a lot more fun to do those things than I thought it would be, and I've kind of surprised myself by how much I enjoy that part of BookTube. Anyway, there you go. That's my 2018 Postscript Tag video. Thanks again to Shawn for tagging me. I'll leave a link to his video and to Adam's video down below, and thanks for watching.